For the past few years, a collection of companies has been targeting government departments, selling them printer cartridges for vastly inflated prices. The public servants who buy them can receive gift cards, iPads, digital cameras, while spending hundreds of thousands of taxpayer dollars. It's been dubbed Cartridge Gate, and some believe we're only just uncovering the start of it in South Australia.
Here's where it all started. The $70 million Watergate complex, like some huge ocean liner on the edge of the Potomac River.
The Watergate scandal left a significant legacy. It brought down a president.
I shall resign the presidency effective at noon tomorrow.
And it raised a new style of journalism.
Just follow the money.
And virtually every scandal ever since has been dubbed Whatever Gate.
Well, we've referred to it as Cartridge Gate. I guess the benefit being it easily identifies a range of issues, problems that have been part of this particular scandal for the government.
Since September, the Budget and Finance Committee and the Liberals' Rob Lucas have looked at printer cartridge purchases by government departments. The Victorians too have been investigating the practice, involving 8 Melbourne-based organisations, which they say all trace back to a single company.
What we identified in the investigation was that the company would cold call public servants, which is the area that we were looking at, offering them toner cartridges, and then subsequently continue to call them and selling them at an increased inflated rate and linking that to gifts.
Over 40 entities of government, I think they call them, so that's departments or agencies, have been implicated or involved in some way with the 8 particular companies that they're having a look at. So we are seeing system-wide problems in relation to this particular issue.
So effectively, South Australian taxpayers to purchase $400,000 worth of cartridges have spent $900,000.
He says it's now been discovered 24 different names are being used here by the cartridge traders. After the initial call, the company records conversations with public servants, a vital investigative tool for the Victorians. Rob Lucas says South Australia has been dawdling since September.
Soon after that, Jay Weatherall could have just said, look, most of this was happening not whilst I was Premier. I'm going to, under the Public Finance and Audit Act, ask the Treasurer to have an Auditor General's inquiry, because the Treasurer has that power, and we'll get to the bottom of this. That hasn't been the way Jay Weatherall and the government has approached this. It's been more secrecy, more secrecy, more secrecy.
Why haven't you launched a public service-wide inquiry?
Well, we have. On becoming Minister, I requested an immediate briefing, and then probably within a week of taking up my duties, I established a working group, a cross-government working group.
And that covers every public service department?
It covers every public service department.
The political atmosphere is likely to remain heated. An FOI request from Rob Lucas is being knocked back, Michael O'Brien says, because it will compromise the investigation. Rob Lucas says the government is acting in bad faith. Cartridge Gate has ensnared 3 states so far. It started in Western Australia. The Victorians have dubbed it something else.
Has it been described in the press in Victoria as Tonergate?
And then the latest revelations here. At an anti-corruption conference, Victoria's Deputy Ombudsman gave an insight into how and why people fail to act ethically and why departments fail to detect it or ignore it. Their investigation found 66 schools were involved. Arts Victoria had 40 years' supply of cartridges. They only have a shelf life of 2 years. One staff member had been receiving gifts and vouchers for years, $8,000 of them.
The department, when questioned about it, didn't realise that the officer was purchasing, didn't realise that she didn't hold a financial delegation in the first place, offered no defence as to their lack of oversight, couldn't explain why they didn't have a gift register, the CEO said it was possibly because there was an absence of gifts, and was very defensive.
But the most fascinating insight into human behaviour came in a prison caught up in the scandal.
The 2 officers who were interviewed acknowledged that they'd purchased some, but there were no gifts involved. At 7:30 the next morning, the lead investigator took a phone call. It was one of the prison officers. He said, "I'd like to come back and be re-interviewed." And he was asked, "Why was that?" And he said, "Well, I Googled you last night and now I want to tell you the truth."
For John Taylor, it demonstrates the power of his department's reputation, founded on a constant stream of reports to Parliament. Michael O'Brien is looking at beefing up the South Australian Procurement Board.
Procurement Board sets the policy, and then the Chief Executive Officer of each of the agencies is responsible for implementation. I think the Procurement Board ought to be getting in there and constantly going over process within the departments or agencies.
Now, we haven't had that record here in South Australia. There's no reason why under the Public Finance and Audit Act that couldn't be the case, and I think it's a challenge for the current Auditor-General and the audit staff perhaps to look at what's occurring in Victoria and New South Wales and for us to learn those lessons.
Such lessons intrigue this woman. Dr. Suzanne Lemire teaches ethics and governance. In her opinion, and John Taylor's, it starts with good leadership.
There's no magic recipe. It's a question of the people, partly the people at the top, management commitment, so making sure people at the top model ethical behaviour, but also that they invest the organisation's time and money and resources into making sure staff not only know what the code of ethics is, but know its significance and know what's going to happen if they don't adhere to it.
I think we've definitely got to look at the younger, newer employees and make them aware of the ethical standards that are required of them within the South Australian public service.
Sometimes it takes work to bring out the better side of human nature. Michael O'Brien says public servants may face criminal charges, but the company's actions are within the letter of the law. The company has declined to comment.